The Paddlesafe Waterways Guide has been developed by Paddle New South Wales to help waterway users quickly prepare a trip plan, invite their friends and leave the trip plan with a home-based person in case they do not return at a designated time and a search needs to be initiated. The app does not provide a home-based service to initiate a rescue. It just makes it easier for you to leave your trip plan with a friend or relative. The development of the app was funded by the New South Wales Police and Emergency Services Black Spot funding. In addition to the trip planning, Paddlesafe allows you to take the Waterways Guide on the road to access information about trips and access points on rivers, lakes, estuaries and the ocean, and to also access up-to-date current river level information and local weather forecasts and fire danger risks whilst you're in mobile coverage. The Paddlesafe app has 5 functions. The first is the Discover screen. This screen shows the most recently loaded images by paddlers on trips they have done. If you like the look of a trip, you can select the place you would like to visit and see more details and then plan a trip on that waterway. The second is the river level screen. This shows the current height of the river level gauge associated with a particular whitewater trip. The current level is compared to a suggested low or stay-at-home level, a good level, a high level and a flood level that were considered when the river was graded. There is a colour associated with each of these levels. Red is a stay-at-home, yellow is above the low level, green is above the good level, purple is above the high level and black is above the flood level. If you need to refresh the data on this screen, just simply touch the screen and pull down for about 5 seconds and you'll see the wheels spin and the data will be refreshed. On this screen you can filter the list so you see just the trips at the level you'd like to paddle. When you see a river that you would like to paddle, select it to see more information about the access points and river conditions, or take the option to plan a trip on that river. The third is the guide screen. This screen allows you to do a name search on the waterway name or to look for waterways in your area on the map. You can also filter by whitewater and open water grades. When you select a waterway, you will be able to see the trips which are blue dots, access points which are red dots, points of interest which are orange dots, and businesses which are purple dots. You can see more details about these by pressing on those dots. If you select a trip, you will be able to see details of the trip including links to weather forecast, river level gauges, graphs, recent rainfall, fire danger ratings, marine and swell forecasts, and the details of the entry and exits and river conditions. You can then plan a trip from this trip information screen. The fourth screen is the trip plan screen. As mentioned before, you can start a trip plan from the river level screen or the guide screen and bring across the information about where you're going. Otherwise, you can plan a trip from scratch on this screen. You can select an access point from a map or select an access point or a waterway from a list. You can use word search to refine that list. Once you've selected a waterway, you can then select from a list of trips and also access points on that waterway, or you can just tap on the map and enter a new access point. Once you have entered where you're going, you can then enter the meeting time and the expected finish time and date, and the time and date when you consider yourself overdue for the home-based person. Next, indicate whether you have done the trip before. Now enter the participants' names, selecting them from a list of your friends who have been on previous trips, or adding them either from your contacts or by keying their name and email address. The participants' emergency contact details, vehicle registration, type of kayak and paddling experience is also kept on the trip plan. This can be loaded from the user's profile on the Waterways Guide, or it can be entered on the trip plan by the trip leader. Home base person's details are also entered on the trip plan, either by selecting them from a list or by adding their details. The registration numbers of the vehicles being used on the trip should be recorded against the trip plan, as the police will first check that these vehicles are at the access points before doing any search. Select from the list of drivers on the trip and then confirm their vehicle registrations as stored on the Waterways Guide profile, or you can enter their car registration details. Next, enter the safety, navigation and emergency gear taken on the trip. Once again, this helps the police assess and prioritise the search operation. The final part of the trip plan is to enter the meet-up instructions and also any extra instructions like itinerary for the trips and other details. When you have completed all the details of the trip plan, you'll be prompted to send out the invite. You can save it as a draft until you get more information and then send it out later on. If the trip plan has not been sent out, there will be a message in red giving you the status of the trip on the upcoming trip plans list. The participants will receive this invite via email. They don't need to have the Paddlesafe app, they just need to be able to click on the fact they're coming, maybe they're coming, they're declining the trip, or they're declining but keep them informed. This will go and update the plan on the Waterways Guide, which will then update the trip plan on your iPhone. As the participants and the home-based person respond to the invites, you, the home-based person and the participants will be able to see who has accepted, declined and may be going on the trip. You'll be able to see this on the Paddlesafe app and also on the Waterways Guide. The participants do not need to have the Paddlesafe app, but they will need to have registered on the Waterways Guide to see and respond to the trip invitations. Before you go on the trip, you should send out a revised trip plan to the participants and the home-based person so they have the final details of the trip. The trip plan that the home-based person receives contains a script that will answer the questions that the police will ask if the home-based person rings to report the group overdue. On the day of the trip, you should start the trip whilst in mobile coverage to let the home-based person know you have started the trip. Whilst you're on the trip, you can record waypoints, and if you have mobile coverage they will go immediately, otherwise they will go at the end of the trip. When you finish the trip, whilst you can indicate to the trip plan that it has been finished, you should always call the home-based person to let them know you're off the water and safe, rather than relying on the app to get the message through. The final screen on the app is the information screen. This has information about the app, boating rules for kayaks, how the grading system works, safe paddling information, and the option to send feedback. You can also log on to the app on this screen and maintain your profile information. The screen also has lists of canoeing and fishing clubs, canoeing and fishing guiding services and education services, hire businesses and equipment retailers and their locations and contact details.